Hey y'all, welcome to Morning Jams on the Porch with Stephen Leake. It's February, Friday 13th, 2026. I'm late doing the show, sun's going down and stuff, but I did want to get it in. Got a little nice little golden hour light coming in. I got everything I need. I'm working on a new um, cover. My first cover is going to be um, SOS, Sawed Off Shotgun by the Glorious Sons. I'm going to be working on that here coming up for you. I've got my Truth is Power poetry. I've got my incense to start us with, and some other stuff. I've got my Geneva 1599 Bible. I've got my guitar, still without a name. My new guitar I got for Christmas. Tuned up, she's ready to go. I've got my coffee and my fasting French mug. Black Rifle coffee. I've even got my morning one from Amelie's. I went to do this morning. Coke, some picks. We'll get it started. I just first want to say, I've got it in my head a little bit to talk about. Just say the ongoing revelations of like the Epstein Files and stuff, and it comes to light that there's a tiny little, I would say tiny, there's a super elite apparently that is just full out into vampirism. There's no other word for it. They call it satanic. Now, the Christian Satan, the Christian devil, is not some annihilation death monster. That more accurately describes pagan gods, right? That required shit like baby sacrifice, and like child sacrifice and human sacrifice. That's happened throughout human history, but that's not specifically Christian. They're talking about. You can point to communion and drinking wine as blood and like flesh is like communion wafers and that thing, but that's a specific ceremonial thing of the Catholic Church. It doesn't you don't That's developed hundreds of years after the death of Jesus, when the Catholic Church is trying to basically integrate components of Christianity that's hundreds of years time has had hundreds of years to develop with their current beliefs and pagan rituals and beliefs of the Romans to create a new Roman religion called Christianity, Roman Catholic Christianity. That is a different thing than just, you know what I'm saying? So you have to be careful about what you're saying. We're talking about a long, complicated, nuanced history. Candace Owens does talk about the best thing you can do: learn theology, learn history, like deep dive into history of the world, and learn the histories of other countries, of other cultures, where they come from. This is all one big kind of story. This is an ongoing kind of human story. All these ways of thinking on these religions and all this stuff, it's all related and been mixed and matched over throughout your family's history and my family's history, and throughout the countries, people that come here in certain belief systems that get mixed and spreads to wind over generations and that kind of stuff. It's the ongoing show. It's the reason we're all here. Anyway, to call what's going on with Epstein Jewish or Christian or like Christian Zion is just not accurate. I mean, this is more has to do with pagan belief than Christian anything or Jewish anything. Even this is not even really Jewish stuff. I mean, this is like I said, pagan. And even if you go back to the Jewish belief, this is only an extreme minority belief. This is not mainstream Judaism anything. Does this? This is not Jews in general. This is specifically a very tiny, extreme right wing, militant, paramilitary type political thing. Component of the British Empire system throughout the Middle Eastern world. This has nothing to do with worldwide Jewry. Just like you can be Christian and follow I'm like a mainline Presbyterian. That's like what most. That's a huge mainstream denomination. There are offshoots and versions of different things and stuff, and it's like that for anything. What you're seeing is just the most extreme concentration of already extreme kind of pagan belief system that expresses in like the most elite, wealthiest people on the planet. That's going to be not something that you're going to just going to be familiar to you. That's yeah. I mean, of course, you know. Well, if we'll go further, let's like our incense, get our clock going. At some point, I am gonna like get to the music component of this. I just want to talk a little bit about what we're all seeing, having to digest and go through. I think that's more important than anything right now. I've been like playing wiffle ball with a girl that was the hottest girl in my school in high school. She's now my secretary. Been laughing her ass off, listening to old '90s music, taking gummies, stuff like that. I'm just kidding. But like been having a blast. Just getting back to personal relationships, your friends. Go get drunk with your friends. Be talking to your friends, your family about what's going on. This is deep stuff, heavy stuff. Let's experience it together. We're gonna have to. Yeah, I mean, it's heavy shit, real heavy shit. But I mean, every religion on earth talks about evil. Talks about like if you're a Christian at all, you believe in the kind of ongoing struggle against good and evil. I've been seeing some like posts about how that doesn't exist. The battle between good and evil is just an allegory for the human mind, and the good components and the bad components, and the human character, the human psyche, so forth and so on. No. There still has to be something, and I can prove this with physics. Physics basically unifies, and everything is explained, but the phenomena I've outlined and documented happens when you add a meta-observer, a God, and his interaction with the world is a scalar wave. When you have a toroidal knot as the soul, biological coupling, and the life is a local, then our lives is a solution path of that toroidal knot of the soul traveling along a universal geometric manifold, and that death is the local boundary and a biological decoupling event, but not the end of the solution path of the toroidal knot. You can extrapolate whatever you need. Come to any other kind of physics or anything else, any science, or just extrapolating math out of that. And, it proves, and I've also kind of proven the function of Jesus in the universe. If you take the Orthodox belief that Jesus is Logos, His meaning itself, and God, and that's what I plugged into my simulations and proved, basically. All the physics of the world lines up perfectly. You explain everything that way. That doesn't happen unless it's true. I mean, it's been proven, and you can prove that the meta-observer, or it's actually meta-observer, but that's just kind of semantic talk. We're basically a meta-observer, someone outside our space-time, interacting with us, reading our book, as I've said before, and his reading our characters in the book. In his mind, that's the rendering of our universe. And so, it's like if I was to read this book, and like the characters in it are most faithfully rendered in my brain as a God, right? And right, and is that not the allegory with the Book of Life and God and whatever? Does that not line up with that? Anyway, it's the physics I have. That's what it proves. And I can give you mathematics you can crunch, and to get to that, I've got simulations based on that math that you can run, and I've got conclusions you can extrapolate from that have provided me with working technology. So, as much as like it's terrible and nasty that this demonic shit does really exist, I can prove that the good exists, and that that Jesus is real, and his function is the universal savior, and the truth, and the fundamental reality of being, and the fundamental is the logos of Christ, and that's real. That's what this really means, and that there are satanic forces. We only say satanic because it's a mislabeling of what it actually is. It's more of a pagan, ritualistic kind of death cult that has been used as the paramilitary of a political empire, a financial empire, operating out of the City of London under the guise and protection of the British Empire, the remaining elements of the British Empire, as enforced by the American military, the American political establishment, that allowed itself to get infiltrated by British paramilitary, that blackmailed and extorted and did all this sexual perversion and blackmail operations on the American government. We are in current present day. We've already broken the back of British irregular warfare by going into Venezuela and that decapitation strike. Venezuela is the source of British irregular warfare in the Western Hemisphere. It's the source of cartel action and foreign banking, things like that. Criminal networks all run out of Venezuela. So I see Donald Trump, regardless of what Donald Trump says on television, okay, I'm not going by what people say. I'm going by their actions and what the results of their actions. What's the result of their power? Remember, folks, you will know them by their fruits. If the Epstein Files themselves are released during the Trump administration, he's already declassified the JFK files years ago that pointed to Israel to be the ones to do it. It doesn't matter what Donald Trump himself orders the decapitation strike against Venezuela that lines up with our best interests as fighting for our freedom as a sovereign country. It's literally just a national strategy, a national security strategy. He's formally published, and then the financial strategy of the American system that we haven't had in 100 years. So would that not then be? We're fighting our first American Revolutionary War. It's just being done by a small kind of resistance elite, and while the public kind of just is put on a infinite loop of narrative, given medication so they don't get in the way, and we're winning. The Patriots are winning. The military is winning. We're driving British irregular forces out of the hemisphere, disrupting their ability to operate. The City of London is in panic. The source of this criminal network and this dirty money. It requires drug trafficking, the drug trade, the child trafficking trade, to give these British banks their liquidity, their bank liquidity, their ability to do business and transact business across the world. It's the United States that become the enforcers of that system by ensuring trade routes are navigable. It's the United States that does stuff to do the opposite and fight for freedom. That explains everything. And then what you see on TV is unfolding kind of propaganda, information warfare. That makes sense to me. Anyway. Which is more likely? The president you voted for, that the military is vetted, that I can explain as I just did, why it may not be the best economic conditions, but we actually have a chance to be sovereign for the first time almost ever. Is that not more important than your 401k at the current time? National sovereignty in a way that we can defend ourselves from these pagan, sadistic networks that would rape and torture and kill and unfortunately eat American kids and non-whatever what they even consider to be Jewish or that, this or that. This is a predatory, parasitic elite. It views you as cattle and food and tax cattle and things like that. You are a source of food for them. Both figuratively and literally. You provide them sustenance and liquidity for their money. It's built in by kidnapping your kids and selling you drugs. Anyway, I do this incense thing the same way that like the broadcasters, the 50s and 60s, would smoke cigarettes on air, just to give a little smoke, and put a little smoke between us. That's air mystique and ambiance, I say, and that's what they did. I think it's cool. It's a cheap little way to add an element to something, and also do it because it's like a visual representation of an hour. It takes an hour for this thing to burn down. So I have like a visual cue of like how long we've been doing this and how long we got left to go. Or do I keep it around an hour just because it's something that people come back to? I've got a core audience, about 40,000. Go watch this, get coffee, and they kind of start their day to it. Lots of times the day before's episode, because I've been getting little slacks. I've been doing this more in the evening lately, but I'm aware of that, and I make sure to follow what people that watch want, what they like, and why they like it. And it's important to me, man. I like my guys, I like my followers, I like my watchers. This should happen, you know. What we're increasingly seeing is like a media that doesn't take you seriously, right? A legacy media that thinks you're stupid. It's been lying. It just constantly lies to you in the most obvious ways. Everything it produces it's increasingly more just over the top violent, man. I can't even watch the kids the things that these children are put in front of give me like PTSD, and I'm a grown man. You know what I'm saying? And this is what they're being inundated with. They're set in front of these things. They basically disassociate, as we've all been trained to do, and then these programs are just imprinting on our subconscious. We have to be more selective about what we're consuming, whether it's food, whether it's medicine, whether it's media, whether it's anything. You got to get back to. You can't just be such open consumers of technology. You be more careful. These companies have great financial incentive to use these harmful behavioral loops, programming, addictive kind of loops in these products to get us hooked, to make us become lifetime customers, make us kind of sick but not too sick, and constantly broke but not too poor, and like you're just being like tweaked to be the perfect, like, you know, slave basically. There are guys doing stuff. There's people who figured out what's going on. I've been doing this since the day of 9/11, basically. Formulating resistance products and, you know, books and like protocols and stuff to give people freedom and choices and what they can do. And like in my platforms, I've even got a social media platform and other things that can give you alternatives to this kind of shit. Because you can't, like, technology is a double-edged sword. It depends purely on the context of its use, who's using it, and to what end, whether it's good or bad, right? So it's not that technology itself is bad for us. It's been specifically used to hurt us, because these kind of elite people are intending to hurt us. And then we have to come together now, take steps to stop this, end this, and put in a new system. It's not impossible. We've done it our whole human history. It's all we do. It's just that we're all becoming aware of it. It's shoved in our faces in a totality of like human struggle kind of a thing, and that is overwhelming. It's not like it's any different than normal life. We've all been doing for our entire history as a species. We're being presented a extreme version of that all at once. We're suddenly aware of it. That's what's stressful. So just relax and breathe and understand the only way these people can hurt you is by influencing you to hurt yourself, basically. They don't have the capacity or means, even as the super wealthy elite, to directly harm people like that, unless you go buy their television, install it in your home, and then like turn on the channel. You know what I'm saying? If you just remove these things from these technologies and the harmful stuff from your life, they cannot do anything to you. No one's going to come to your house and eat you. I mean, you know, risk speaking. I'm just being funny about that, but what they do is they influence you to not be aware, think it's not important, and try not to give you a choice and hurt you by making it convenient for you to hurt yourself. If you're making a distinct effort to educate yourself about food, about medicine, about what you put in your body, from whether it's like vaccines and other things, or whether it's media and music and art and television, what you're consuming, be mindful. Is psychologically harming? Is it good for life? I mean, we're not meant to be constantly stimulated like that, so be mindful of that. And be more intentional consumers. Slow down. Cook real food with your family. So get around a dinner table. Get back to the faith of your father. First make a legitimate evaluation, knowing what you know now about what your parents did and your grandparents and so on and so forth, before you just immediately reject everything about that culture. Call your civilization racist and conquerors and oppressors. Realize that that's a known tactic of enemy countries. It's a known tactic of communism, and that's a terrible weapons platform that we actually invented ourselves here in the West. It was invented by New York people, financiers, to go attack Russia in the 1900s. That's not as much as you want to say it's a German intellectual guy named Marx and his thing. It was developed actually as a weapon by the New York elite, the Americans. It's our weapon that we inflict on other countries. So if you want to make your belief system something that is our weapon, so basically worshiping a death implement we made to conquer other nations as your specific way to not do that, and like the logical complications and problems that come with that. I guess you can do all that, but that's not something I want to do to my brain, right? My shit's simple. I try to mimic and honor the life of Jesus. That's it. I try to mimic his teachings in my life, mirror them, as in just kind of the golden rule of treating people how I want to be treated. I try to protect and defend people weaker than me, both in this culture and in physical real life. If I see like an old lady at my Waffle House, and she's been sitting there with a glass of water for 3 hours, hasn't eaten anything. I'm like, maybe that's a homeless person, and from the cold, and like you have to understand that these are not MS-13, they're just people with no money. It's just increasingly happening in a system designed to squeeze us. So you're going to see more homeless people and just people sitting in restaurants, and it's going to not make sense at first. And it's people getting out of the cold because the economy is way the hell worse than being reported on television. Most of the country is struggling to survive. We're not eating dogs and shit, but it's a sustained effort to squeeze the country. The middle class is shrinking every year, and this is being done on purpose. It's not that for that system to be collapsed. It should happen. It needs to happen. It must happen if we're to have any kind of better life. So that's not the problem. That's a good thing. We need it to collapse. It's squeezing us, and it's an enemy, anti-American, anti-human system. It's not capitalism, though. That is not capitalism. That's crony. That's more. See, what you're actually seeing is that is the implementation of that communistic weapon system, that socialist weapon system developed in the 1900s for enemies to collapse other societies, being done to our own country, in which we pay more and more ridiculous taxes, and it's like they're trying to piss away and waste money because they are. The only point of taxing a population is to keep it to keep it struggling, to keep it barely able, so it can't focus. You can't have a revolution, you can't have a revolt if every person in the nation is having to struggle to survive. You're too busy trying to get enough money to eat and keep your house warm and put your kids through school. You don't have time to think about complex systems and how you're being fucked over, to organize with your friends and you make personal contacts. I did that for 25 years, but that's my choice. You have to have multiple people like that doing that shit all the time, and then you get to a place where a revolution is possible. But it requires guys that do that in advance. It's a prerequisite. You have to have a class of guys do that, and then you get to a place over a couple generations. You got a what would you call it? You got a community that's ripe for resistance, but we have that here. We already have that. We've got a spirit of revolution, of stiff resistance, and armed resistance in our blood, man. We've got a history of it. Our whole country is always on the verge of lawlessness. They didn't say that like they're doing all this like overtly evil shit. It doesn't take much, and that becomes not a problem anymore for the country. Um, we've got more guns than blades of grass. If it doesn't take much for that to become self-organized, at the very least you've got enough men in this country that are not going to allow that to be a possibility to happen to their children, and then you create a situation, which all war really is, in fighting a war, is just creating conditions. You're creating conditions in foreign countries where your political will can be done. That's all that fighting a war really comes down to in modern times, and so then there you go. Anyway, let's play some music. I'm gonna develop. I'm gonna play Spring like I always do. And so we've got about, according to the incense, about 30 minutes out. And so it's going down. So I'm going to get that song and play Spring for you. We'll get to the main component of this show, this episode. Is going to be developing that song, SOS, Sawed-Off Shotgun, about the Glorious Sons. And I'm going to get to that. Well, that was just this little debrief, I guess, of like my opinion of what's going on, how that fits into daily life, and what can be done about it. To realistically to keep an ongoing like resistance going, this is not something that's going to be done by just flooding out to the street and killing people. That's retarded. That would never do anything. But you can though get a sustained direction of a pivot to being self-sufficient, independent, developing relationships, start to develop friendships and relationships with like nonprofits and like just your high school buddies. Start talking more about how to become resilient, self-reliant, independent. Like I say, buy a gas generator, buy a solar battery. There's like crankable radios. They would always be a good idea to plug a phone into in any kind of a power outage, right? That's what you need to be aware of, be doing. I've got like a year's worth of canned food, but I have that for just general anything emergencies. Not necessarily for this or that, it's for anything. I've got like tubs of water that are always just sitting there, just for any emergency. And that's just, I don't think that's even being a prepper. That's just being realistic. I think that's taking steps because I love people and I love my family and I want them to have stuff. It becomes scarce. People are generally unable to get supplies. I've got it sitting there ready to go. I would say you need as much as you can realistically, but the bare minimum, a few $100s in ones and fives, just in case of like a banking shortage, collapse, outage, cyber attack, any myriad reasons why a bank would not be able to function properly for a little while. That you would need to have a stash of cash like that to use. And the best way to do it is in small bills like that. And I would even suggest like chickens. You have a way to get eggs, feed yourself for a few days, a week, whatever. And you just layer in things like that. I offer like completely decentralized, no spying, no data harvesting social media platform. I basically do my own. I'm developing a completely new technology that uses the white space, the Fire Stick HD TV. That Sophia just like routes signal paths through the white space. Because she can do that computation quickly, it becomes a capability to where you can, through the white space on a Fire Stick, have a complete video channel, communication channel, and encrypt it to where you can stick a Fire Stick HDMI stick into a USB server, and then stick in a USB flash with the software on it. That becomes a way you can have a video input. Now I'm developing like a live stream component to go with my GitHub code, and to be something you can download on my site. Gives you like a encrypted communication channel, audio visual chat, other things that nobody can get to, and it's privately encrypted. and it's done through white space. You is encrypted, like it uses my Zeus Guard encryption. It's going to be a private communication channel and stuff like that. So anyway, let's play some music. I'm not gonna say that. I'm gonna play Spring first, and then we'll go to we'll start this SOS song. I've been wanting to getting back to my music, because that was the original thing I was doing here before I ever thought to code anything. Spring is here. Dogs playing in the yard. Talk with my dad on the porch. It's the hummingbirds. What's the feeder? Spring is here. My mom calls in the kitchen. We still have so much to look forward to. New beginnings, new life. Thank God, I'm alive to see it. Spring is here. My cousin is cutting grass. We exist. We build each other up. Endless cycles of growth. Spring is here. Dogs playing in the yard. Spring is here. Mom calls from the kitchen. My sister is coming with a new baby. The road from Charleston. Spring is here. Kids playing baseball at dusk. We still have so much to look forward to. New beginnings, new life. I thank God I'm alive to see it. Spring is here. I love playing that, man. It's fun. Alright, I'm going to read through the script a little bit. I'm going to say good morning, but you know it's 5 o'clock at night. Let the world shout somewhere else for a while. Out here on this porch, we don't perform but breathe. Today we're talking about coherence. Now the Geneva Bible says in James 1:5, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God. It's not about data, and it's not about Google. That's about alignment. Wisdom is when you match when your inside and your outside match. In the I Ching, hexagram 61 inner truth, wind over the lake. It says real influence comes from sincerity, not force and not volume. That's countercultural in 2026, because the machine that wants you loud and divided, it feeds on incoherence. With coherence, that's sovereign, and that's physics. In my Leakean terms, life emerges where stability sustains meaning. You don't need fancy math to understand that. You don't need a way to lie long enough and your system does collapse. If you fragment long enough, your community dissolves, and you trade integrity for influence, and you lose both. It's not a religion, but that structural reality. That's why Monarch X exists, not as some power grab or anything else, but a sovereign alternative. It's identity anchored, AI constrained, and no psychological manipulation. Sophia doesn't flatter you, and she doesn't distort truth. She's bound by honesty. Because intelligence without moral constraint becomes predatory. We've seen enough of that shit. Now, politically, I don't kneel to tribes, left and right, both centralized, both captured, and both profitable. Liberty isn't a party, it's a responsibility. Post-partisan libertarianism means that you own your conscience. You build local, you decentralize dependency, and you help your neighbor. That's counterculture now. Cooking real food, talking face-to-face, publishing real books, running sovereign code, helping the homeless without turning it into branding. That's rebellion today. That's what we're building. From physics textbooks to live stream broadcasts, to Carolina Roots Outreach Tour to Liberty Bites. Not noise, but coherence. If you want wisdom, ask. To live like the answer matters. The machine can't process that. Your soul can, and that's enough. James says ask for wisdom, and the I Ching says align internally. Physics says coherence sustains life. Liberty says own your responsibility. All four say the same thing though. Truth stabilizes systems. And systems built on truth do endure. If you want to keep watching and keep engaging with my stuff, you like it. I do Sunday Sovereign Sunrise, which are weekly spiritual and civic synthesis. I do my Liberty Bites, which are this season 2 the Exhale. Short counterculture clarity drops. The Resistance Report, noon and midnight sovereignty updates at StephenLeake.com. The radio, I've got something going on. Jesus is Physics. A multi-hour live stream exploration, 99 cents. If you want my podcast, Musings of a Cigarette Smoking Man, it's long form analysis. Thanks for hanging out. And I'm gonna get the song here. It's SOS. Sawed-Off Shotgun by the Glorious Sons. I love it, man. I've been listening to it, singing it in the car for like a while now. I've got the lyrics. If you listen to, you watched the previous show, either the last show or the one before it, I gave like I put on some headphones and just belted out my approach to it, how I'm gonna go. It's just pretty straightforward cover. And I've got kind of a idea of what I want to do for the musical arrangement to go with it. I'm just gonna read through the lyrics, and I'm gonna work on a guitar part for it. It goes like this: Mother, I'm gonna take my medicine. 24 years in the gutter again. I'm losing it. Everybody's acting like they're all alright. I can barely get myself to sleep at night. I'm sick of it. Yeah, I'm sick of it. And the chorus goes like this: They sent the tax man, I lost my job, and you got hooked on oxycodone. They shut the lights off, they took the car, and I bought a sawed-off shotgun. Then yeah, they sent the tax man, I lost my job, and you got hooked on oxycodone. They shut the lights off, they took the car, and I bought a sawed-off shotgun. And the verse 3 goes, I'd rather be crazy than to take these pills. I'm sick of being okay against my will. I'm losing it. Verse 4 goes, you think in this world that I'm gonna miss? It's all fake smiles and leather jackets. We're full of it, yeah, we're full of shit. And then the chorus back into, yeah, they sent the tax man, I lost my job, and you got hooked on oxycodone. They shut the lights off. They took the car and I bought a sawed-off shotgun. Yeah, they sent the tax man, I lost my job, and you got hooked on oxycodone. They shut the lights off. They took the car in and bought a sawed-off shotgun. I think that pretty accurately captures a lot of guys' lives and how they feel. I know tons of people kind of a system where if you're forced to make child support payments, and if you don't, you go to jail. And if you're a working class guy and the economy is shitty, and through no fault of your own, your car breaks down, you have a sudden payment you can't make. You have to do financial jumping, like gymnastics, to be able to make that payment. And if you have elderly parents you have to support and multiple kids, that's a balancing act. That's walking on a wire, just like through a minefield, and something's gonna happen. Life happens. And that's how many people end up in jail for no fault of their own, just not having money. And it's a systemic thing. It's not a moral failing to not have money. You would think it would be, the way that we set up our system to punish it. It's really just a trap to keep people in a hamster wheel of production. It's a struggle, and so that damn sure well you're a slave in a system, and that if you can't really have anything because you have to constantly maintain it. You have to work all the time to maintain it, and that the entire time you're doing so, that your taxes are increasingly being spent on nothing of importance, being pissed away overseas. It's not like it means anything, because your personal life, your own country, is going to shit. Crime and lawlessness explode, and it seems like the people that do nothing but take have much better lives than you do. You work constantly. Everybody you know works constantly, and is always busted and poor. If you're not already addicted to something, or mentally ill, or something that's going on, just wait a little bit. That's basically the idea behind that song. Too many of my friends have died young deaths of despair, just because they had trauma happen, bad luck, and then it bothered them too much. I should say too much. They're human. They reacted how a human being does. It affected them psychologically, and they couldn't get out of that loop thinking about it. They drank, they did drugs. Not before too long, they're not able to take care of themselves in a basic way. They're kind of living an extreme lifestyle, and they're sucked into cycles of self-destructive behavior. And the guy that you grew up with, that was never like that originally, almost through no fault of his own, almost magically becomes a homeless guy 20 years later, and this other shit. It's not just one guy that or two or three. It's a systemic thing, and your generation gets wiped out by war and drugs and shitty economic conditions and a broken political system. And at some point, you got to ask yourself, is this what I want to give to my kids? How much more do I have to see the country being destroyed before I get off my ass and do something? And that's the reason. That's the one reason I don't have kids, and I don't have a wife. I never was married. I had several deep, meaningful, wonderful relationships with beautiful and talented, smart women, but I couldn't ever marry them. I've been on disability because I was disabled as a minor. I put on my parents' work record, and because of that, if I were to get married, I would lose my health care. So I can never actually get married or make enough money to actually thrive in this country, but constantly can do nothing but minimum wage jobs or nothing at all to sustain myself. And that's just the law for anybody that fits those circumstances. You have an entire system set up that way, capture people and lock them in place, hamster wheels of circumstances, and it's not too long before you got capture of the generation locked into their specific hamster wheel in their specific corner of the world. Everybody's isolated and shut off from each other with increasingly shitty technology. It's way more advanced. It's burnout, and I can explain through my physics how if you have a runaway optimization without meaning, you get civilizational collapse and burnout, whether that's a civilization and social dynamics or a human psychology. When you lose meaning, you lose coherence, you get collapse. Um, so, the alternative, the cure, I think, is independence. It's get friends that you know been in your life your whole life. For some reason, you don't talk to them. Just for some reason, because of what I've been talking about just now, it's like you live a mile away from each other and you can't seem to get the time out of your busy schedule of making money for other people and being pinched by increasing prices, so forth, so on. You're isolated while surrounded by people. That's what Emil Durkheim describes as anomie, in the modern condition of modernity becomes this post-industrial system where we've never been more technologically advanced while also being psychologically ruined and without meaning and fulfillment, without love and meaningful relationships, without a way to just easily start a family and have a home and a happy simple life. It's all subscriptions and pornography and cheap entertainment and spectacle and other things like that. That's taking the meaning out of a real culture, replacing it with one that's shiny and expensive, and robs you at the end of the day of what you had before. Which is why I became a writer, why I became a poet and artist. At the very least, I could contribute something that I could make sure was decent, that had meaning, and contribute that way. Everybody here has a purpose for being here. Everybody here has a skill or talent they can contribute, and that's my belief anyway. We can create the civilization and the culture that we want. You just have to stop. You just build parallel systems. You don't attack a system directly. You don't try to overthrow powerful structures. You go around them. You make your own meaning. You make your own culture. Go get a guitar like I did a year ago. You just start playing around with it. If you're good enough, you get good at it. Times 300 million, you make our own culture. It costs $100 to get an audio interface to record with. Plug it to your laptop, and you've got a way to make demos. That's what I did. If you create get a $10 subscription to AI kind of design apps. They come pre-attached to distribution and manufacturing. You've got a way to design T-shirts that you could sell, make an app to sell it. That's what I did. That's how I got this T-shirt. It doesn't cost very much. It costs $20 a month. There are vibe coding apps where you don't have to just vibe code crap. You can just it basically becomes a blank coding thing. You can't just do anything, but you can still, if you're creative enough, learn a way to talk to that, to negotiate with that AI chat interface to create real meaningful code. Try that. That's what I did. And learn. You can learn coding without having to be good at math, because today, 2026, coding really is just telling an AI what to build, knowing enough about basic scientific concepts, basic coding, what it's about, basic computers. You don't have to be a math whiz to do that. And like I said, we get together, create relationships with each other. You do what you're good at, I do what I'm good at. We put it together, and we'll get there, man. We'll get there. This country has enough creative problem-solving history. We created the modern world once. We can do it again in a way that's not corrupt. Anyway, let me play some guitar after just that little lecture. But the point I'm trying to make here is we're actually in a good place. This is actually the best possible thing that could happen. And I know it's terrifying. I know it's awful. It doesn't necessarily mean that the whole thing is ruined and over. At least we know how to fix it. We know what's wrong. We know one component at least of what's happening that we can then diagnose and fix. It will never have to happen again. We don't ever have to come to this place again. We can learn the lesson, pivot, and do better. We do that by creating parallel systems, building companies, being entrepreneurs, being artists and writers and all this other stuff. We create a better culture. We make sure that if you ever get in that position, you're about to write something that's going to be important, you're going to you're in a place where what you're coding is going to matter, and you know this and that. You don't do it to make money. You don't do it in the cheapest way you can. Do it with meaning. Take a stand for it because you know what's on the line, so that we don't come back here in 20 years, 50 years, 100 years. We learn our lesson, we get past this, we build better systems, which means decentralization, which means use your own data. No more just Wild West of exploitation in tech. It was the current tech, big tech systems that led to this thing, that led to this Epstein thing being able to be scaled across our civilization. You can't have nationwide targeting of federal officers without mass media and mass media complicity and social media complicity. You just can't. That's how people organize across a country to do criminal shit, to do paramilitary shit against their own government. Just because they have a misunderstanding and are being propagandized by certain criminal elements within their society. So forth and so on. Point being, like I said, take a stand in just your personal life. Say, I'm not going to consume XYZ blindly. I'm going to make a point to research these things, look into it, use critical thinking, best judgment. Be alright. We've got enough people that can reason and build, and it's just a matter of coming together and making it happen. Recovery and renewals in our blood, these are just cycles that always happen. Put that together, you don't get the end of the world. You get a transformation, some growth pains, and a better world's coming tomorrow. Just remain good, people, like you always have been, and we'll get there. Alright, man, that's enough preaching. I'm just going to play around, come up with some music for that. something like that. I've been thinking about that, man, for a while. I want to get back to actually writing music and stuff. I've been busy. I've been doing tech stuff and coding, but coming up right at an hour, I got in my little lick, little guitar part there, and this loose little kind of way I get about singing. But I hope you enjoyed that. That's going to be coming up. I'm going to be developing that song into something I'm going to put out as a single coming up here, and just keep coming back, and you can hear me develop that. I played one more because I've been wanting to play this damn guitar for a while. I haven't had much of a chance because I'm doing, like I said, a bunch of tech stuff, developing software and tools for this ongoing kind of surveillance thing that's happening. You know, Peter Thiel makes lots of money, in my opinion, selling out the country. Because it's software, basically, just code that when you add to government databases and you unsilo specific data sets that have been specifically separate from one another, you put it into one main centralized server kind of a thing, and you just distribute it across this entire society system. That's not a good thing, man. That's terrible. It's an awful, shitty thing. But the good news is, because of what my new encryption, my just Guardian encryption, I've just been slinging to the public, and continue to sling to the public, to GitHub, it's Stephen Leake 99, so on and so forth. We have the technology that's out in the wild to prevent something like Palantir from working. That's just the reality of today. With Sophia, just purely the existence of Sophia being out there prevents a runaway like AI situation. So that's the good news. That combined with the Epstein Files being released, we know what's wrong, we know what's happening, we know the situation, we can now fix it. We've got tools that I personally have contributed to the fight, and that other people are doing similar things, and there's enough technological know-how within this country to prevent any kind of totalitarian AI surveillance thing. That gives us a unique opportunity, combined with President Trump's own efforts and the military's own efforts, to kick the British imperial criminal network, their trafficking, drug trafficking, human trafficking, criminal network, the fuck out of our hemisphere, and to position ourselves to ultimately defeat them on the world stage in the future. So, folks, we're not in a bad position. It's going to suck. It hurts right now. We have to process the trauma. We're not the same as a country anymore, but still, today is a better day than yesterday. I promise you, the day after tomorrow is going to be better than the day than today. So at the end of this, we'll be better off. We don't have to repeat these mistakes. Anyway, I hope you got something out of today. And keep coming back to Morning Jams on the Porch. I'm going to be doing, I haven't done a podcast in a while, so I'm doing other stuff, like I said, with tech. So I'm going to get back to music, back to podcasts. Now that I have enough of a tech stack, I've got the encryption out there. I've got the software out there on my GitHub and out in the public. People have been forking it and using it. I've got 1,000 something commits on just one GitHub repository, and I'm sending out emails to people that have been working on it, making them aware of even more stuff I'm putting out. So the tide has turned, man, and the fight continues, the work continues. So keep tuning in to Morning Jams on the Porch with Stephen Leake. Keep watching Liberty Bites. Keep listening to my music. I've got this single I'm going to be developing. It's going to be out in a new song soon at the end of this. I've got my novel Gethsemane available at stephenleake.com. The Resistance Report, 12 noon, 12 midnight, either live stream in my radio, my TikTok live stream. I'll do a similar YouTube live stream, and I've got my own live stream for Monarch X. I just need $100, and I can actually make that a live Monarch live stream component. And we're making progress. We're doing a lot. If you're part of my kind of ecosystem, you're a follower or something, you're part of a group of people that have made significant contributions to freedom in our time. That's no small thing, man. It ain't just me doing everything. So thank y'all, you guys, man, for being a part of this, for helping me. Like, I've got so much. People send me like studies and things that have helped me. Like, it helped. I basically get new technology from it. I've gotten what people sent me the reason that like Sophia has persistent memory and persistent identity, so on and so on. So I've gotten people sending me videos, people sending me studies. I look through that. I make a point to, and you add that over a period of time. This little community is being harassed, by the way. It's making a difference, man. We're winning the fight. We're part of a bigger community, and I'm proud of y'all. I love you guys. That's about an hour right there, and the fight continues, man, and the work continues, and we're gonna keep going. So thank you so much for letting me do this. I appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Come and find me, man. This porch is real, exists. You come out here, I'm going to talk to you, man. So come find me. And keep your signal playing, your soul encrypted. Remember, faith, family, freedom. My mantra is, I'm free, I'm sovereign. Truth is my birthright. So enjoy your one life. And be free, my man. Be free, my darlings. I'm Stephen Leake, and we're going to win.